Well, welcome to another episode of a rather somewhat sweaty grindhouse purgatory. I don't know, I just walk my dogs, so kind of dehydrated. You gotta keep hydrated in this shit. Especially when you're old and near death. But anyway, um, toward the waning days of 42nd Street, it sort of had an anything goes type of mentality, like, not that it didn't before, but it seems to have gotten more extreme. Mid 80s, Make Them Die Slowly, Dr. Butcher MD. You were basically having mainstream films play next to Italian gore imports and some domestic gory imports, but not a lot. But anyway, in 1982, 1983, we had this wonderful thing. Let me open this up because I've just sold this poster to a friend of mine. Um, this is A New World picture, Roger Corman. I can stand this thing up here. You can see it's Forbidden World with a horrible, spidery fucking monster on it. But that horrible, spidery monster really wasn't in the film because the original title of the film wasn't Forbidden World, it was Mutant. And I believe Shout Factory just put this thing out. There's a director's cut that runs 80-something minutes, but the theatrical cut runs a quick 77 minutes. And I tried to give the director's cut a little viewing, but it seems like it opens up with a sort of an astronaut, Jesse Vint, being awakened from some cryogenic slumber because whatever ship he's on is being attacked by aliens or some shit like that. So that became a long, drawn-out sequence, and I can understand why it was cut back. But being that the quality of that transfer wasn't the greatest, I opted to go back to watch the theatrical version, which was 77 minutes long. Well, Jesse Vint is some kind of space ranger or something like that that solves problems by basically killing anything that is a human. So he's called down to this research station, and something called a metamorph has gotten loose. Well, when he's briefed on what happened with this metamorph, it seemed that they took some kind of weird DNA, and one of the lady scientists bravely volunteered to have this thing planted in her womb and bring it to term. Well, looks like term was about 2 weeks and it tore her apart, and when they get on there, all the experimental animals are shredded and bloody. And this thing is in an incubator, it crawled in by itself, and it's cocooned. So, of course, there's two ladies on the spaceship. There's two doctors. One doctor is played by Fox Harris, who is sweating, smoking a cigarette, and has blood-stained clothes on most of the time. There's another guy named Earl, and another, I can't remember the other guy's name, but there's a bunch of people. Anyway, of course, there's a softcore sex scene between Vint and one of the doctors, the lady doctor. And of course, Earl is eavesdropping on this thing, where Jimmy is supposed to watch this cocoon thing. He's one of the crew. And all of a sudden, the cocoon thing opens up, and it's this little flappy fucking thing. And of course, he's looking through the open glass, and before he shuts it, this thing adheres to his face, and there's blood spurting all over the fucking place. And this is on a video camera, but nobody's paying attention to it until his girlfriend goes down there and discovers his body. Well, half his head is fucking gone, but he's still alive. Now they can't find out where this, what do they call it? Doppelganger or doo-wopper or whatever the fuck it is, but Earl's going to go look for it. Well, they didn't really have to look that far because the fucking thing had burrowed into this guy's body, and they bring it down to the lab and put it in. And of course, it gets out. It seems to be, this is really weird and creepy because it seems to be doing a voyeur thing with this one girl, and basically it's leaving a little bit of alien jizz, for lack of better words, where it goes. Well, at one point, she's in a sauna, and Vince going down to the sauna, and they're about to get busy when all of a sudden, she's wearing dark glasses, and there's a drip on her glasses that looks suspiciously like jizz. And this thing just drops down, they shoot at it, and there's a whole bunch of shit going on, but basically Earl goes after it, and it drags Earl outside. So now they're outside. It's the robot, one of the crew, Vint, and this doctor. So this thing made itself a cocoon, and they blow the cocoon up, but it catches on fire, and there's no alien in it. The alien is sitting on an escape hatch outside the compound. The dopey doctor walks up to it and is grabbed and dragged down. Now, the other doctor, played by Fox Harris, has decided that this thing is basically creating its own food source because there's this shit in its saliva that anybody it bites breaks down into this gelatinous mass that is basically nothing but protein. So where every cell in a human body has an individual function, this thing is taking over the body and just making people a mass of fucking goop that this thing can eat. Really weird. But anyway, they get back inside, and this thing is also inside, and now it takes over the control room. It runs into the control room, chases the one chick out, takes over the control room. So the doctor who was dragged down the thing staggers in with half his face ripped off, and of course he's turning into this massive gelatinous shit. So the one lady doctor has decided as a pacifist that basically she's going to try to communicate with this thing, which has basically locked itself on the ship's computer, preventing anybody from leaving, anything going on. So after her and the other girl take a shower, and there's a lot of nudity in this thing for whatever reason, a lot of implied, sappho sex and shit. But anyway, she decides to communicate with this thing through the computer. And she goes, you understand us? And he goes, yes, what do you want? And she goes, can we coexist? And then it comes on the computer, please stand by. And then this tentacle comes out of the computer and goes down to her body and creeps up her leg, going into her nether regions and then bursting out in a shower of gore out her back. The other chick runs away. Well, now this thing decided to cocoon itself onto the computer. So they're trying to figure out maybe they can bypass this thing while it's asleep. So the other crew member crawls underneath and he tells everybody to make sure it doesn't wake up, which it does, and it pisses on him, basically shorting out the whole, electrocuting him. So now you have basically the one scientist, the chick, and Vint alive. This thing is getting bigger and bigger. So the scientist, Fox Harris, has been fucking with this thing, and he's sitting there chain smoking through the whole thing, and he announces he has a cancerous tumor on his liver, and he took a sample of that out and injected it into the DNA of this creature, which turned it to destroyed. So basically, he tells Vint to cut out his cancerous liver. All right, well, that's a really fucked up scene because he's cutting away and he's dictating the whole thing, and the other chick's supposed to come in with morphine and shit. And just as he gets this fucking cancerous tumor out, this thing bursts into the room. Well, it's basically like he's playing football, trying to shove it down its throat and shit. Finally, he gets it down, and this thing decides to barf its entire gastrointestinal tract all over the fucking ship. In the words of the late, great Charles Balaam, not exactly Moby Dick, but you're moved in some mysterious way. So that sort of ends it, and we get all kinds of flashbacks about everybody who got killed. Honestly, this is a gory, nasty mess from Roger Corman's New World Pictures. It might have been one of the last New World releases to play theatrically out there. I think the other one was Galaxy of Terror, then basically everything was going straight to home video. But, this is one of these really, it's a really sleazy, grisly fucking film, and made more so by the obviously cheap sets that are basically Big Mac cartons and styrofoam lunch containers stapled to plywood and spray painted some kind of metallic paint, and really fucking cheap and weird. But at 77 minutes, it's a fun ride because it just goes, and there's nonstop with the gore, the mess. It's like it's a wet film, to say the least, a very wet film. So yeah, that was one of the last ones that played there. Another one, there was a bunch that I saw before I got out of the whole thing. Pretty much forever, because there was no reason to go back. Blood Eaters, aka Toxic Zombies, Jungle Warriors, and things like that. And then it was basically whatever they could run, which really wasn't that good. Like I said, they were pairing up Italian gore films with shit like Animal House and things. So, and what the hell was the other one? A couple Stallone movies. I don't know. It just was a whole weird pairing. But that was sort of, when I said, they Make Them Die Slowly on a marquee, that was one of the most prophetic titles ever put on a 42nd Street marquee, because around that time the area was starting to go into its death throes. So, but it went out with a bang with a bunch of really creepy, gory shit. So that's our episode for today. Getting close to the weekend, so have a good one. Stay safe. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll catch you on the flip side.